Have you ever noticed how quickly your mind decides who you are before you even try? I'm probably going to fail. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm awkward. I'm too late. People like me don't succeed at things like that. And what's interesting is most of us don't even question these thoughts anymore. We repeat them so often, they stop sounding like thoughts and start sounding like facts. But many of these beliefs aren't actually truths. They're predictions your brain learned to make it through experiences, emotions, fear, rejection, criticism, embarrassment, survival. And over time, those predictions can quietly become the boundaries of your life. So today, we're talking about self-limiting beliefs, where they come from, why your brain holds on to them, and why understanding them might change the way you see yourself entirely. Because you are not necessarily seeing yourself clearly. You may be seeing yourself through patterns your nervous system learned years ago.
Every lesson is a lyric in the universal song. Oh, the lessons of the journey, I weave them in my song.
Welcome back to Lessons of the Journey, your real life playbook. I'm Coach Jen, here with Coach Nicole, and today we're diving into something that quietly shapes almost every area of our lives. Our confidence, our relationships, our goals, our creativity, our healing, our willingness to be seen, and even the opportunities we allow ourselves to pursue. Self-limiting beliefs. What makes this topic so important is that many of these beliefs don't sound dramatic. They sound normal, reasonable even. I've just never been good at speaking up. I'm just not that consistent. I'm not a very confident person. I'm not really the kind of person who can do that sort of thing. I always mess these things up. We say these things casually, repeatedly, and sometimes for years. Eventually, they stop sounding like thoughts and they start sounding like identity. But what if these beliefs were never objective truths to begin with? What if they were learned patterns? What if they were protective adaptations? Old conclusions formed during painful moments. Because from a neuroscience perspective, your brain is constantly trying to keep you safe, not necessarily fulfilled, not necessarily expansive, but safe. And if your brain associates something with pain, like rejection, failure, embarrassment, judgment, abandonment, criticism, it begins building predictive patterns around those experiences. That's part of why people can deeply want change while simultaneously resisting it. You can want visibility while fearing being seen. You can want connection while fearing vulnerability. You can want success while fearing failure, or even fear the pressure and expectations that come with success. And none of that means you're broken. It means your brain learned associations through experience. One of the most important things we want listeners to understand today is this. Many self-limiting beliefs begin as protection. At some point, a belief may have helped you avoid pain, avoid rejection, stay accepted, stay emotionally safe, stay small enough to avoid criticism. But eventually, protective patterns can become restrictive patterns. And the brain loves familiarity, even when familiarity hurts.
Yeah. So there's a concept in neuroscience called neuroplasticity, and neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to reorganize itself through repeated thoughts, behaviors, and experiences. If you're a regular listener, you've heard this before. So you've probably all heard the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together. This is associated with the work of Donald Hebb. In simple terms, what this means is the more often you think a thought, feel a feeling, or repeat a behavior, the more automatic that pathway becomes. So if someone repeatedly thinks, I'm not capable, or I always fail, or I'm bad at relationships, or I'm behind, or I'm not creative, the brain becomes more efficient at returning to those thoughts. And this is not because they're objectively true. It's because they're practiced. This matters because many people think their most repetitive thoughts are accurate simply because they're familiar. But familiarity is not proof. Repetition creates efficiency, not truth. Research in psychology and neuroscience consistently shows that repeated mental patterns strengthen neural pathways over time, which means many beliefs that feel so deeply true may actually just be deeply rehearsed. That realization alone can be incredibly freeing, because if patterns can be learned, they can also be changed.
Yes, I love this topic. So many things. If you've listened to Nicole and I for a long time, you've heard this. You are not stuck with the brain you were born with. Anything that you don't like can be changed on purpose, mindfulness, awareness. One of my favorite topics of all time. I love when we come back around to this.
This is so good. What this makes me think of, and we've talked about this before, the concept of fake it till you make it. This is what it's talking about. If you think something enough, you can make it true for you.
Yes.
And if you think something negative enough, you can make it true for you. If you think something positive enough, you can make it true for you. This works in both directions. Most of us are super familiar with the negative version, have to learn the positive version.
Yes. And of course, I tie all of this back to the 4 agreements because these are the agreements that we have made, whether it was unconsciously, subconsciously, somewhere along the lines. This is learned behavior. And once it no longer serves us, we go, oh, I'm stuck. When actually it's just a limiting belief that hasn't been addressed yet. You want to light me up? Let's talk about this. So another important piece of this conversation is something called negativity bias. Human brains naturally give more weight to painful experiences than neutral or positive ones. Does this sound familiar? This is definitely a strong theme throughout many of the topics that Nicole and I talk about here. So why does this negativity bias exist? Well, because evolution prioritized survival. You've heard us say we're not far away from those cavemen and women that we once were. Your brain is constantly scanning for danger, threat, risk, rejection, and pain. And because of that, difficult experiences often leave stronger emotional imprints than positive ones. One harsh criticism can outweigh 10 compliments. One humiliating moment can shape years of self-perception. One rejection can create fear around trying again. And if those painful experiences repeat enough, your brain begins making predictions. This will happen again. Don't risk it. Stay careful. Stay quiet. Don't put yourself out there. And eventually, those predictions stop sounding like fear and start sounding like your identity. And that's where self-limiting beliefs become incredibly convincing because they often feel emotionally supported. Your nervous system remembers that pain. And when the nervous system remembers pain, it often tries to prevent future exposure to it. And that's why growth can feel so uncomfortable, even when it's healthy, because your nervous system does not always interpret different as safe, even when different is better.
Yes, a million times, yes.
Yeah.
One of the most fascinating things about the brain is that it's constantly predicting what will happen next based on your past experiences. So if someone experienced failure, rejection, judgment, criticism, or emotional pain in certain situations, the brain may begin predicting those outcomes automatically. And when the brain predicts perceived danger, the body responds. That response can look like anxiety, avoidance, procrastination, overthinking, perfectionism, self-sabotage, people-pleasing, staying invisible, or never starting at all. Yes, we cannot relate to any of those.
I'm like, check. Oh, that's me too. I'm all of them.
And it's funny, the staying invisible, I think you can go the opposite too. I'm personally one who's gone completely the opposite. Oh, you're going to ignore me? Okay, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be loud and proud. Maybe I need to chill that a little bit. So this is not necessarily because we're incapable, but because our nervous system is trying to protect us from potential pain. This is important because many people interpret their hesitation as weakness, but often it's protection. Outdated protection, maybe, but protection still. Your brain may be trying to protect a version of you that no longer exists. The younger version of you who feared rejection, the version of you who learned being too much wasn't safe, the version of you who stayed quiet to avoid criticism, or the version of you who learned achievement was tied to worth. If we don't become aware of these patterns, we continue building our lives around predictions instead of possibilities.
Can I tell you a personal story?
Yes.
So, relationship wise, we went through quite a bit of this. And the first time I heard about negativity bias was from a couples counselor. I was told that my brain was automatically looking for the negative in the outcome. And that's the reason I would never bring forth concern, complaints, anything. Well, he's doing this clearly because he doesn't love me. Because if he loved me, he wouldn't be doing this. So I am unloved. Therefore, I will behave unloved. Therefore, we will fight because I am very clearly unloved. When in fact, I wasn't capable of saying, no, that's not the real story. The real story is we're sitting here, we're doing this together, we're working on this, we're learning, we are receiving new tools. The old story was, I'm predicting this to keep myself safe. Instead of addressing things that need addressed in the appropriate manner, I'm going to keep to myself. I'm going to stew on it because I already know what's going to happen because of that negativity bias. Exactly what you were saying. We build our lives around those predictions. This hits home. I mean, only because I've been through it before. It's really cool to learn how to get out of it. We want to talk about how these beliefs become self-fulfilling. I just kind of told you how my life was being created one non-thought at a time. So one of the hardest things about self-limiting beliefs is that they create behaviors that reinforce themselves. So here's an example. If someone believes, I'm just bad at relationships, I should just stay a single person, I'm terrible inside of a couple, they might also unconsciously avoid vulnerability, overanalyze interactions, expect abandonment, struggle to trust, or emotionally pull away. All of these things for me. And then when connection becomes difficult, my brain, your brain says, see, I knew it. I knew it. Not realizing the belief itself influenced the behavior. Psychologists often refer to this as confirmation bias. I was looking for the negative, I decided it was true, and now I'm confirmed in that. So the story continues to remain true for me. The brain tends to search for evidence that supports what it already believes. You might also be familiar with the term self-fulfilling prophecy. Guess what? Your life is what it is because you made it that way, babe. Which means if you believe you're incapable, your mind will naturally pay more attention to the mistakes than the progress. And this is why awareness matters so much. Because until you recognize the lens you're viewing yourself through, you will continue mistaking old conditioning for objective reality.
Oh, that's a mic drop. Old conditioning for objective reality. Wow. I love my brain, but I also have a little bone to pick with my brain. One of the biggest misunderstandings around personal growth is the idea that people stay stuck because they're lazy or weak or unmotivated. Many people are not fighting a lack of desire. They're fighting deeply practiced fear. And understanding that changes the conversation completely because self-limiting beliefs are often not acts of sabotage. They are attempts at self-protection. And when you begin seeing your patterns through that lens, shame starts to loosen. So you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, what happened that taught me to believe this?
Yes.
That question creates compassion, and compassion creates space for change.
Wait, I'm supposed to have compassion for myself, but I'm like the best at being the worst with myself.
We got to flip that beating ourselves up, don't we?
Oh my goodness. So the goal of this episode is not try to convince you that every fear is irrational or that mindset alone changes everything. The goal is awareness. It's always awareness with Nicole and I, because awareness changes the relationship you have with your thoughts. You begin recognizing not every thought is truth. Not every fear is prediction. And not every belief deserves permanent authority over your life. Question everything. That's the fifth agreement, by the way. Many self-limiting beliefs are simply old survival strategies that outlived their usefulness. And healing is often less about becoming a completely different person and more about creating enough safety to stop living as the fearful version of yourself all the time. Because your brain is adaptive. Your nervous system is adaptive. Your patterns are adaptive, which means change is possible. Not overnight, not perfectly, but very genuinely possible. And maybe the most important thing to remember is this. You don't have to fully believe in yourself to begin changing your life. Sometimes action creates belief, not the other way around.
I'm going to go into one of my takeaways, and that is that even though I've pretty much heard all of this information in the past, but the reminder is so valuable. I feel like you and I should just do this podcast every 6 months because we forget to say, you know what? Maybe I do need to challenge some of those beliefs because I get into my habits and I forget to challenge my own beliefs and say, wait, is that true or do I just believe it?
Yeah.
When we take that conversation deeper and we start talking about how your brain will just be there to protect yourself, it starts to make more sense why people argue about stupid things because their brains have them convinced it's truth.
And we forget that the way we see things is through the lens that we are wearing. And we are the only ones with our lens. The person that you sleep with does not have the same lens. Nicole, you've been married for 1 million years. Tim does not have the same lens.
No. No.
We think, oh, everybody should know what's going on with me. My truth is the truth. We go, well, that's my truth. So in an argument that's somehow supposed to make the other person go, oh, okay, well, if that's your truth, then forget my truth because your truth must be the truth. No. There's only the truth. And then there is our own perception based on the lenses that we are wearing of the actual truth. And that's where we get it all messed up. That's why 4 agreements all day long.
Yeah, I agree with you. Self-limiting beliefs are interesting because I personally 100% can relate to the fact that I'm like, well, that's fact.
Yeah.
This is a fact about me. And I'm finding as I'm getting older, more of me is like, fact or not, I don't really care.
Yes.
I can do whatever I want. So there's like a freedom I think that we get as we get older with our self-limiting beliefs. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but who the hell cares? I'm going to do it anyway. When you say self-limiting beliefs, you're talking about those things that limit you, limit your expansion, limit your growth, limit your ability to do and try and experience life at its absolute fullest.
Yes.
You are not who you were. You're somebody totally different in this moment in space and time. The you that exists is completely different from the you of the past. That's why I said I have a bone to pick with my brain. It's holding on to all that crap and telling me, well, we got to keep you safe. Get out of my way, brain. Just let me do my thing.
Yeah.
And keep the knowledge.
You know where this comes up? This is usually when I get the phone call from a new client. I'm stuck. And inevitably, we're going to sit down and find out that you're stuck because you're working with limiting beliefs that were created without your permission in a time that you don't even remember. Another sign, the shoulds and the woulds and the coulds come up quite a bit when we are running up against limiting beliefs. Because one of my favorite questions to ask you if we're sitting across from each other and you tell me, well, I should be doing this, says who and why? Is it you that's saying that? Is it your brain? Is it your mom from when you were 4? Is it your grandma from when you were 7? Is it that coach from when you were 10? Is it yours or was it somebody else's that you adopted because you didn't know any better at the time? Who is saying it and why? Why should you? What's the point here? Where's the trail going to take us? I tell you, that cracks a lot of people open.
Yeah. It's interesting because it may be your own voice, but the reason it was created was a safety mechanism that is literally no need at this point in your life. You don't need that. It's such an interesting conversation. I use the shoulds more to beat myself up for the past. If you focus on the past and the mistakes you've made in the past, learning from them is good. It's like, oh, okay, that was a mistake, but guess what? I can still do that thing and learn from it and move forward, even if I have a self-limiting belief. I don't care. Let's see if it's true or not. Is it true right now? Is it true today?
Right.
Maybe it was true yesterday, but is it true today? We don't challenge that enough, I believe.
Well, and that's part of the awareness that you're talking about is I have to be mindful. I have to be aware of these things in order to even question it. Does this still serve me in this moment? And that's why we have the tool belt. We want to be able to pull from the tool belt with all of these things that Nicole and I are telling you over the course of this podcast. You're not going to use them all the time, but they're great to have in your tool belt to pull out and go, I'm going to examine this as, is this a limiting belief? Could I have expansion somewhere around this?
It's interesting you bring that up because if you actually have a tool bag, some of your tools are at the top and then other tools start to get buried. It was like every 6 months, I need to just have this episode. Yeah. Are you challenging your self-limiting beliefs? I think I've gotten pretty good at it and I could do a whole lot better.
I think we all could. At the top of this, I said, this is one of my favorite topics. Our brains are fascinating. In another life, I am the brain doctor that gets to scan people's brains and learn all about them.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by how incredible the science behind how we function. It's really amazing that we can change our brains throughout our lifetime. Thank goodness, right? Because of the way life goes. Gosh.
Flexibility is the key.
Yes. I was reading something recently and it gave me this really fun tool that I started using and I started talking to my kids about it. And it was something about a bummer thing happened and the difference between the way you take that next 30 seconds to think about that thing is the difference between how your brain is firing and wiring. This kind of stuff always happens to me, like spilled coffee. Oh, of course, because today was going like that anyway. That's a negative confirmation bias that you're looking for there. So the tool was, if something happens and it kind of bums you out, you automatically say, well, it's a good thing that 3 times. So something like I spilled coffee on myself. Oh, it's a good thing that I have a closet full of shirts that I can pull from. Oh, it's a good thing that I have a car that can get me there on time still. Oh, it's a good thing that I have a washing machine that can get this stain out. And you're not erasing the bummer. You're training your brain to look on the positive sides of things. We're not talking about the toxic positivity. We're talking about the training of the brain to shift the bummer. We're not ignoring the bummer. We still got to take care of it. And it doesn't create a day full of bummers because the second you address that negative thought, you can do something else with it. It's either going to take your day a good way or a not good way, subjectively, of course. We were just raised in a society that really didn't help us understand this. So as I'm teaching this to my kids, that happened and it's part of being human. And look what our brains can do with this.
Yes.
We can on purpose create the second thought.
Yep.
I would love to get to the point to where I can create my first thought. But what I can do is recognize that first thought and automatically move into the, okay, where's my bias going to take me? That is active work, which is why this stuff doesn't happen overnight because we've gone years and years of our lives doing it the other way. This is an active shift, moving it, hopefully in the direction for the next 50 years.
Yeah. Focusing on your blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a great topic. I love talking about self-limiting beliefs because I feel like we all have them and understanding is really important.
Yeah. I've read a book with this title and I see it in all the self-help. It's don't believe everything you think. We think the world centers around us. So our thoughts are the thing that is controlling our lives. All I'm saying is question those thoughts. Don't believe everything you think because most of it's not true anyway.
Very well put. I love it. Let's go into questions. I know you want to go first.
Well, of course I want to go first. And my question actually has to do with the self-limiting beliefs, Nicole.
Really?
Yeah. I came up with this question before I knew we were doing this episode and it just lined up. So I must be energetically in the flow. I would like you to tell us what is something that pops to your mind that was a self-limiting belief that you had to identify and move past that made your life better.
Okay. I mean, I've had so many. I'm going to say the self-limiting belief I had was that noisy women or loud women or women who stand up for themselves are not right in society and that I need to control myself more. Control. And one day I said, F that. I am who I am. You love me or you don't. I don't care. I absolutely am a passionate person and I will always be a passionate person. I am a woman. I am loud. I am in charge. And I don't care. People either embrace it or they don't. And the people that think that that makes me not okay in society are not my people anyway. So I let it go.
Get it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's definitely it, is the noisy woman thing.
I am a noisy woman, and I said that.
That's why we're like podcast sisters, girl, because we're both noisy women.
Yes.
We can relate to each other and talk over each other when we need to. Could you imagine you or me on here with some meek and mild woman? It would not work. We have to match energy here.
The controversy it would.
No, I need you chomping at the bit to tell me what you think. Like, just get in there. That's how we are.
And thank goodness.
And thank goodness. Yes. Match made in heaven. All right. Here's my question for you. What's something oddly specific that makes you feel instantly at home?
Oh, okay. My pillows.
Tell me more.
I am a 4-pillow person. Well, I'm a sleeper for sure. But I have these satin pillowcases on these king size pillows in my Cal King bed. And when I was pregnant, I had this horseshoe pillow and I was like, this is the greatest gift of all time. I'm just snuggled into my cocoon of pillow. And then at some point, not being pregnant anymore, I had to give it up because Paul was like, why are you so far away tucked in? And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. So anyway, I have 4 pillows. I have one on this side because I fall asleep side sleeping and I throw my leg over it. And then I have one on the other side for when I turn over. And then I've got the 2 behind me and like this X version. And I will take at least one of my pillows with me when I travel, because I need the size of it. Hotel rooms, they don't have the big pillows. And I've kind of just like mushed them in a way that is for me. I have trouble falling asleep anywhere else than my bed unless I take one of my pillows with me. I guess I'm like a child. It's like a little stuffy for me. As long as I have one of my pillows, I'm good. Nice. So that is the first thing that came to mind for your question.
I think that's great. In next week's episode, we're going to go deeper into how to actually begin rewriting self-limiting beliefs in practical, realistic ways. We'll talk about how to identify the core belief, how to separate facts from predictions, why affirmations often fail, what bridge beliefs are, and how small repeated actions begin reshaping identity over time. So if this episode resonated with you, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss part 2. And if someone came to mind while listening to this episode, send it to them, because sometimes understanding why we think the way we do is the first step toward finally changing it. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Keep questioning the stories that keep you small. Keep noticing the patterns your mind repeats automatically, and keep remembering that awareness is not weakness. It's the beginning of transformation.
Yes.
Until next week, enjoy the journey. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Write your lines with passion, let your spirit freely roam. The lessons of your journey will lead you safely